You mentioned alcohol and abuse. Do you recall, when you first saw it and how it affected you?
Look, I suppose as a kid, I mean, I remember being in town camp. There's a town camp over here where my family live. I remember spending a lot of time there. My mother would always like to be around family. So we'd go and visit family out there, and I remember seeing one of my older, I think she was a cousin to me, and she was drunk, and she was in a state. She had a knife. She was stabbing herself in the leg. Her little son must have been, he was younger than me. I would think I was about 7, and he was younger than me. He might have been about 4 or 5, and running away terrified and trying to find comfort in my other, family members' arms. I remember...
Before this goes on, this is Jacinta Price and Carl Stefanovic. Doesn't go for very long. But just remember, everyone's capable of telling lies. And the best liars are the political thespians. Remember, she's been inducted into some kind of special club with Gina Reinhardt. She's here to sell us Pauline Hanson. So she's a corporate black coconut.
Another time where there was fighting going on, so we had to go and grab my baby cousin, and he was, he was like 18 months old or something, and I was probably 14, and I remember I just held him in the crook of my arms that whole night. I just wanted to comfort him because he was so distraught. I remember my aunt hitting my uncle over the head with a mattock in our front yard because she was defending himself because he was an abuser, and he was always, whenever he'd come into town, he'd...
Well, wait now, bro, this could be some kind of modern day dream time, huh?
get on the drink, and then she'd follow him in, drag him back out to community, but he'd bash her up. I remember Christmas, I must have been about 10, and my aunt was there with her partner, who was another, when he got drunk, he was abusive, and he had his 2 young kids there, and the littlest one was probably, again, a 2-year-old. I remember him still being in nappies. He was either 18 months or 2 years old, and his big sister, who was probably 4. And as the day went on and they kept drinking, they were in an argument, and he grabbed his son by the hair and was flinging him around. And I just remember, a little kid in a nappy being flung around by his own dad like a rag doll. And I remember seeing the look on his face was just, it was blank. It wasn't like he was crying and distraught because this kid was used to it. I was like, and us scrambling to grab this baby off him and calling cops. The amount of times that we've called police to intervene in violent situations, I've lost count of that. I've lost count of the funerals. And this is the thing that the left, when they romanticise Aboriginal culture, they completely ignore and gaslight the reality of what goes on in a place like this. They're not there to help these situations because you have to confront it. You have to talk about it. You have to air it out. You have to lance that boil in order to fix it. And so you've got the Greens, you've got the left, you've got Labor, who pontificate about, let's respect, let's show our respects to the elders. Bullshit. It means nothing. It means nothing to these little kids who are living in these circumstances. Go on with your virtue signalling as much as you want.
Yeah,
but
you do
it doesn't make you a better person when you get up and do that. It sickens me. I'm over it. I'm done with it. This is why I can't participate in that. And then there's an Aboriginal industry that is built on the backs of the misery of these people. I mean, closing the gap, it's just a joke. It's a joke.
4 of the 20 recommendations or whatever.
Yeah, right? It's a joke because you don't want to actually address the real issues in an honest way in order to fix them. And when you don't do that, you're part of the problem. And there is so much that is part of the problem. But the Aboriginal industry, oh, let's get another commissioner, let's get another this person, let's fund this position. What for? You're doing nothing. Yeah, you know, like an Aboriginal ambassador for what? Foreign policy? Oh, let's look into Aboriginal space travel or whatever the hell it is they're funding, what grant process they're funding now. It's bullshit. And we've got to stop pretending as though, we've got to stop treating people differently for starters. Now, we're talking about Australian people, Australian kids, not spiritual beings that hover above the earth, you know, and romanticise this culture that we know women were treated terribly before colonisation, still are, because I see it within my own family. I see it. I've lived within this culture. It's a different set of logic, if you like. You know, when you've got a situation where you got petrol sniffers out in a community sniffing petrol. One of them was my young cousin. Someone had a lighter. That lighter was lit while they were sniffing petrol, and their lungs were inflamed, with flames from that lighter. And my family go, well, okay, let's not look at this situation more broadly and say, well, we've got to stop this problem of petrol sniffing. We've got to blame the person who owned the lighter, and then that person's got to be punished, or someone close to them, in traditional terms. In traditional terms, if a woman loses a child, she's, in traditional terms, blamed for that, even if it was due to something like cancer, leukemia, and she has to be punished physically in traditional terms. In traditional terms, a mother's not supposed to attend her child's funeral. Like, there's all these elements of culture that people don't have a clue about. People who don't live it have a clue about. And then there are those who've unfortunately lost their culture for things like the stolen generation, but unfortunately there's a lot of cultural reinvention going on. There's a lot of cultural romanticism going on. No, we didn't have smoking ceremonies willy-nilly. No, we didn't do this welcome to country thing. This is all romanticism, and also you can get paid for that stuff. We didn't pay each other to welcome one another.
So you still don't necessarily agree with the welcome to country?
No, it's pontificating. It's romanticism. It's sure, teach one another about culture. You know, have those knowledgeable conversations and transfers, and let it go back and forth. But let's not stand up and pretend and act virtuous. Like, it's cringy. It's actual cringe. It's like, you know, my husband, it's like the Scots and the Irish. There's the Scots and the Irish, and then those who want to be. It's shortbread and tartan. You know, we've got the same thing going on here with Aboriginal culture, and everyone's painting up and playing the didgeridoo. Well, the didgeridoo comes from one place in the top end. That's where it comes from. It's a Yolngu instrument. That's where it belongs. But everyone's culturally misappropriating it now, which is fair enough. But don't pass it off as this is your traditional instrument that you've played for over, what is it now? We're reaching 120,000 years? Come on.
So no more welcome to countries in a government you will lead.
Oh man, let's just stop wasting taxpayer dollars. Come on, let's make it count. That's all I'm asking, you know, which is why I wanted to I was calling for an audit of the spending in the Indigenous industry, that massive big industry. Come on, let's put it in the private sector. Let's get Aboriginal people standing on their own 2 feet and becoming entrepreneurs and making their own money without relying on the taxpayer. You know, white fellas have been doing that for a while. This is where that exchange of cultural knowledge can go on. There is a formula, and white fellas are humans too. We're all humans, and if a human has a successful formula, then we should say, how can we apply that in our lives to make our lives successful? Ultimately, we're living in a modern world. We're not living in the times that my grandparents were living in, running around the bush, you know, surviving off this country with none of these things that we've got on, none of these clothes on. I mean, in traditional terms, I should have rocked up in Parliament with nothing but a hairstring belt on.
I'm not comfortable rocking up in Indigenous garb.
No. Maybe a little bit of ochre as well, but ultimately a hairstring belt and some ochre was my traditional get-up.
Gum leaf, just a gum leaf.
I didn't have any plans on greeting you today in in that way.
Well, it would have been, culturally interesting.
Appropriate.
Or inappropriate.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I love it. They removed my comment. Man, seriously? I'm refreshing it, but I'm pretty sure they've removed it.
I have this.
I'm pretty sure they've removed it. Now, how weak is that? Okay. I'll paraphrase it. I see a common theme here, Jacinta. Alcohol. You want to talk about having a difficult, honest conversation? Let someone jump straight on and deleted my comment. Which just goes to prove you don't really want a difficult, honest conversation, Jacinta. You want to do that very thing that you're hooking into everyone else about, called virtue signalling. When a corporate black calls the coconut a corporate black, but they will do away with Australia Day for all the wrong reasons. They will do it using the hate speech laws. And no one wants to actually admit the fact that, yeah, the Europeans did invade Australia. My word, they did. But as long as everyone wants to, Australia Day, Australia Day, Invasion Day, Invasion Day, as long as we have dickheads like Pauline Hanson and Anthony Mundine going on the Cora and Jackie O show, rambling on about Australia Day versus Invasion Day, and then Anthony Mundine's father, Warren Mundine, gets on Sky News telling us that we have to protest in the morning and then barbecue together for lunch. What? Like, that's just a silly game. Let's just pretend. Let's spend the morning antagonising one another and then pretend it didn't happen in the afternoon. Like, it doesn't. How's that going to work? Of course, it's not meant to. You ruin the day in the morning. You spend the morning ruining the rest of the day, making things awkward. She's right on a whole bunch of things. Don't get me wrong. She's right on a whole bunch of things. For all the wrong reasons. What's really going on here? It's a whitewash of everything traditional. You see, we're still squabbling over a sand pit. Let's call Australia a sand pit. like kids squabbling over a sandpit. We want to blame the Muslims. Hang on, they were invited here, and what did we end up with? Western converts, that traditional Muslims wash their hands off. The worst of the worst. And like in Africa, you got mass murders of Muslims and Christians by so-called Muslims. How does that work? That's what's going on. They're not showing us that on the news. You have to go and look for alternative news, alternative channels in different countries to see that. Democracy now, not that that's the arbiter of everything honest and true, but they have different stories running from different parts of the world that we're not privy to. So we get the worst of the worst from all over the world to create this problem. They call it multiculturalism, and it's not really. It's like out here, outside of prison, is the main yard of prison. And when shit goes down, the prison guard's hours away. A whole bunch of people that don't mix together, don't get along together, stuck in the same yard. Thanks for the extra hair, whoever baked that loaf of bread. So now what do we have? We have more people with no traditional values, morals or ethics squabbling over the sandpit. It's like an all-in brawl of cats, of feral kids, squabbling over a sandpit and crayons. And here we are, being invaded yet again. No wonder the Canaanites call us Goyim, cattle. Because we're as stupid as fucking cattle, aren't we? I can't believe I deleted that comment. How weak. Well, this goes to proof. They don't want an honest conversation. They just want to say that they want an honest conversation. There was nothing wrong with what I said. No warning, nothing. Bam, just deleted it. I don't get me wrong, I'm expecting at any time now I'm going to get a visit. Probably between now and Tuesday, because I have court on Tuesday. All I say is I welcome it. Because as we can see around the world, that correct, there is no such thing as bad publicity as long as you spin it the right way.